Chrissy Cordingley, the dedicated managing director of Ignite Purpose Canada, champions the idea that effective leaders must prioritize personal growth to inspire those they lead. Her career began in health and safety, where she elevated organizations from minimal compliance to the realm of award-winning people programs. Chrissy's commitment to personal growth recently culminated in her achievement of the Career and Employment Coach certification. In addition to her coaching prowess, she is a host of the podcast and streaming television show Healthwise 360, accessible through programs like Amazon Fire, Roku TV, and Apple TV. Chrissy's leadership style is uniquely defined by her openness, engaging storytelling, and a dash of humor, establishing her as a true leader by example. And so she's taking the example of being the first. Could we do a little round of jazz clapping?
Snaps. Thank you. I didn't find the trauma-informed life. The trauma-informed life found me. And her name was Brenda. And she marched into my life demanding to be accepted and for me to be her leader. Over a decade ago, I was part of a sales organization with a mission to enrich the lives of women. And often we had meet and greet events, usually every Monday, where guests could come and learn about who we were and decide if they would like to join us. One evening, this very tough, rough woman stomped into the venue. If you could see her aura, you would believe it was just covered in daggers and jagged edges, just ready to cut you. And she said, "I'm Brenda. This better not be a scam." And she sat down with her arms crossed like this in front of her. And I delivered my presentation, scared to death of her. Brenda complained loudly and questioned me on everything I said that evening. When it was finally time to wrap up after what I felt like was the longest meeting of my entire life, Brenda came up to me and said, "I'll see you next week." And I said, "Oh, you're coming back?" And she said, "Yes, and I'll bring my membership fee next week." Brenda wanted to be a permanent fixture of my group. And I dreaded it. I dreaded the next Monday, just hoping she wouldn't show up. How was I going to handle this obnoxious and rude woman? If I can't manage the situation and take charge, what does that say about me as a leader? But I was smart enough to realize that when there's fear or confusion, sometimes the best thing you can do is call a trusted friend. And I shared with my mentor all the reasons why I need to tell this Brenda person why she cannot join our group because of all the reasons it was going to be really hard for me. And my mentor gently stopped me and said, "Maybe the lesson in all of this is this, Christy. It isn't about you. What does Brenda need?" And those words really had me thinking and pondering. Who am I to deny someone an opportunity? If she shows up, I made a decision to welcome her, no matter how afraid of her I was. And sure enough, next Monday, Brenda rolled on in as tough as ever. And she walked up to me, reached into her bra, and grabbed the $50 she needed for the membership fee. And I just kept listening in my head to my mentor. And I just kept thinking, maybe the judge in me thinks we do not need her, but what if she needs us? And she showed up every single Monday. She was right in our faces. She challenged everything everyone said or did. She was like a hurricane. And at the end of every meeting, she said, "That was great. I'll see you next week." She never gave up. And people would scatter when she walked into the room. But I always did my best to meet her with a smile and make her feel welcome. And then strange things started to happen. One night at the end of a meeting, she came up to me as always, but she wrapped her arms around me and hugged me. The next week, she started smiling at other women. And then she started to listen to other people without playing devil's advocate to all their opinions. Her language choices started to soften. Eventually, she started bringing cookies for us that she baked herself. She even hosted a party in her own home, and we all went. We wanted to go. She asked one day if we could talk, and she wanted to know how she could contribute to our group goals. And I was really excited, and I happily shared sort of my visions and dreams for us as a group. And then I asked her, what are your goals, Brenda? What do you want? And she said, well, this is why I asked, because I've never had one. I've never worked towards anything. I've never been in a place where I've been allowed to dream. And I invited her to share her story, and she did. And it was filled with illness, poverty, and horrible abuse. After that call, she said, I don't really care about money or business success. All I want, and I already feel like I already have it, is just a community that I belong to. I had been a mentor to her for 1 year when I got the call that she died in her sleep peacefully from a heart attack. She only had one friend outside of our group, and that was her life partner. And so our team organized a service at one of our homes for him. And he shared at that service that just a few days prior, Brenda told him this last year was the best year of her life. She finally found people she felt safe with. And I said, I'm the one that is grateful. She collided into me like a tidal wave and stuck to me like a barnacle. She taught me the most I could learn about leading and loving people through their scar tissue and fear until they can see clearly again for themselves. Now it really is a mission for me to see the person underneath the armor of negative behavior. Behavior is actions that we take, but those actions do not always match with who we are on the inside. There's 3 lessons that I want to leave you with about trauma-informed leadership that I really took away from my time with Brenda. Number 1, when you're unsure if you can hold a safe enough space for someone that is wrestling with trauma, then reach out for help. I reached out to my mentor, and I'm so glad I did, because if I hadn't, I may never have let Brenda in. I may have told her she could not have joined, and she may never have found a place that brought out her peace instead of her survival. Number 2, when people are loud, unruly, or difficult, they're not always crying for attention, but often they're craving connection. And 3, as a leader, you may need to be willing to step into the ring of fire with the person that is on fire. But you may need to make it more about what they need than about what you want from them. I couldn't heal her trauma. I couldn't solve her problems. Boundaries are very important to minimize vicarious trauma. But I could stand beside her and be a safe place to land as she learned to build connections with others and believe in herself. And I just want to finish with a quote that I really love by Carolyn Swara. The more power and privilege you have, positional or not, the more accountability you have to close this gap and welcome people into discussion and understanding or sharing so that both experiences can be valued. Thank you.